Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, and if we're just meeting for the first time, in this series we're talking about reading the Bible. So every week I'm going to be putting together a video about what I've read that week. Every week I'm going to be putting together a video about what I've read that week. Yeah, so full transparency moment. As you can tell, the videos in this series are not coming out weekly. You can clearly see from the voting sticker on my hoodie, I had every intention of putting these out weekly, but as you can tell, life happens. Perhaps a weekly schedule might have been a bit too ambitious. So if you have a better timeline on when these videos should come out, please leave me a comment below. The good thing is the content that you're about to watch, I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I hope that comes through, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So before we get back into the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to stick around to the very end for the behind the scenes bloopers. If you haven't already, consider subscribing, comment, and share with your family and friends. Okay, let's get back into it. This week we're going to review Genesis chapters 11 through 31. So starting off in chapter 11, we see the people of earth all speak the same language. And in this portion of the Bible, the people are trying to build a structure tall enough to reach heaven. Now, it looks like they were very successful. According to the Bible, it says that even God himself had to come out and observe what they were doing. According to the Bible, they were actually being disobedient. It says that they were supposed to be scattered among the earth. So as stated previously in the Bible, God did not want to destroy the earth again. And so instead of destroying the earth, he confuses them, and he introduces new languages into the world. If we can take anything from chapter 11, it is that whenever you have a goal and you surround yourself with like-minded people, that goal is destined to be accomplished. Moving on to chapter 12, the Bible talks about Abram taking his family and moving to a distant land. Unfortunately, the new land that Abram and his family now dwell within encounters a famine. Due to the famine, Abram and his wife now venture to Egypt. Before they arrive in Egypt, Abram tells his wife to notify no one of their marriage. He wants her to tell everyone that they are brother and sister. Now, I felt this because I can't imagine going anywhere and lying about my marriage. I can't believe this. You want me to lie about my marriage? Whew, that's beyond me. So then the story gets crazier. As they go into Egypt, Pharaoh notices his wife and takes Abram's wife as his own. Now I know, Pharaoh, you got your people, you got your minions and your warriors and your chariots. All of that is great, but you ain't gonna take my wife. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You ain't gonna take my wife unless we gonna fight. We gonna have to fight. You gonna have to kill me, all right? You gonna have to kill me, cause ain't no way you gonna take my wife. We've been together since 9th grade, my guy, okay? So if you like her so bad, you gonna have to go through me. Cause I ain't playing that. Sorry, I got a little emotional. All right, so anyway, moving on. The good thing about this is that God is watching this entire situation. As you know, God told Abram, whoever curses you, I will curse, and whoever blesses you, I will bless. Needless to say, Pharaoh is now blessed. Cursed. Needless to say, Pharaoh is now cursed. The Bible goes on to say that severe plagues affected Pharaoh's home. So much so that Pharaoh had to kick Abram and his wife out of the land. So after Abram and his family leave Egypt, we see his nephew Lot and him in a new land. Unfortunately, in this new land, Abram's servants and Lot's servants are quarreling over land. Abram, being the blessed man that he was, made sure that Lot had enough, and so they decided to go separate ways. So moving on to chapter 14, we see that there's a giant war between 9 kings. Unfortunately, Lot is somehow mixed up in this battle, and he and his family get captured. As soon as Abram hears this, he gets his warriors together and he goes to reclaim everything that was taken. So right after Lot's family has been restored, we see that God comes to Abram and promises him a son. The timing of this is very interesting because at this time, Abram is an old man and his wife is actually past the age of childbearing years. So Abram, being a man of faith, believed God. Later that night, Abram had a nightmare. And in that nightmare, God explained to him that his descendants would be oppressed and enslaved for over 400 years. God told Abram that his descendants would come out with great possessions. Now, if you know anything about American history, you know that the first slaves were actually brought to America in 1619. So 400 years later, that would be 2019. So very briefly, I want to share something that my pastor actually mentioned recently. My pastor's prophecy is that next year, 400 years after the first slaves were brought to America, we will begin to see the great possessions that the Bible talks about. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope that moves you the same way that it moves me. So getting back to the summary, we see that in chapter 16, the Bible talks about, once again, humans are taking God's promises into their own hands. So as you know, Abram and his wife are past childbearing years. The Bible says that Abram's wife convinces him to conceive a child with her servant Hagar. When God originally tells Abram that he would have a son, the Bible doesn't really specifically say how that would happen. However, we have to know that if God says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And I think sometimes in life, and I'm really speaking to myself, that when God says he's going to move, he's going to move in a way that only he can move. So shortly after, Hagar conceives Abram's first child, Ishmael. In the next chapter, chapter 17, the Bible speaks about a name change. The Bible says that God changed Abram's name to Abraham and his wife's name to Sarah. So around this time, God revisits Abraham and lets him know that he will have a son named Isaac, and Sarah will bear this child. So while they're speaking in chapter 18, God mentions two wicked cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. So Abraham, being so concerned with his family, realized that his nephew Lot was actually in the area. He begs God and says, if there are 50 people that were righteous in that area, would you please spare it? And God replies, I will definitely spare it. Abraham continues to negotiate from 50 down to 10. And he asks God, if there are only 10 righteous people, will you please spare the land? And God obliges and says, yes, I will spare the land. God sends 2 angels to the land, and I believe he sent them there to see if he could find 10 righteous people. As the angels approach the land, they immediately see Lot. Lot is so happy to see them that he invites him to his home for food and beverages. As the angels are within his home, a group of wicked men surround the house. The men are so wicked they attempt to even break through his house to get to the angels. The angels cause the men to be blind and they retreat. But God sees the land is so wicked, he decides to go ahead and destroy it immediately. But he's going to allow Lot and his family to escape first. So early the next morning, Lot takes his family and they're able to escape the area. As soon as they're safe, God begins to rain fire and brimstone on the entire area. Unfortunately, the Bible said that Lot's wife turns around in disobedience and becomes a pillar of salt. By reading the Amplified version in chapter 19, the Bible says that Lot's wife not only looked back to where her interests were, but perhaps lingered behind and was overtaken by the fire and brimstone. Once again, by just simply being obedient, we can be saved from destruction. My. Also, one thing to note here is that we often talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. However, the Bible states that every city and every town in the region was destroyed except for Zor. So moving on to chapter 21, we see that now Isaac is born when Abraham is now 100 years old. Moving to the 22nd chapter, we see that God is testing Abraham's faith by asking him to sacrifice his son. Now this is a crazy act of faith. At this time, Isaac is 20 years old. The Bible speaks about Abraham's faith and his willingness to sacrifice his son Isaac. However, what often gets overlooked is Isaac's faith. Isaac's faith in his dad and God is so remarkable here. He is going through the motions knowing that he may be sacrificed. And we all know what happens here. There's a ram in the bush and Abraham uses that as a sacrifice. So fast forwarding, eventually Sarah dies, Abraham dies, and Isaac marries Rebekah. The Bible goes on to highlight a set of twins birthed by Rebekah, Esau and Jacob. The Bible says that Esau and Jacob are founders of a great nation, and the separation of those two nations began inside Rebekah's womb. So we know the story here. One day after a long day of hunting, Esau returns back home and is starving. He is so hungry, he is willing to sell his birthright just to be able to eat. Now I don't know how hungry you have to be to give up your birthright, but it does say that Esau said that he was going to die. So in exchange for his birthright, Jacob provides Esau with a meal. Now this birthright is very significant. The Bible says that the owner of the birthright receives a double portion of inheritance from their father. And as we know, Isaac is a very wealthy man, so this birthright is very valuable. The Bible says that Isaac favored Esau. However, his wife Rebekah favored Jacob. In the future, in Isaac's old age, since he's unaware of when he will pass away, he decides to go ahead and give his blessing to Esau. He tells Esau to go kill wild game, prepare his favorite meal, and after that he will bless him. So while Jacob is going out to hunt, Rebekah overhears their conversation and instructs Jacob how he can get his father's blessing. Now as I'm reading this, I'm like, dang, sometimes it be your own wife. So moving on, we know that Isaac blesses Jacob instead of Esau. When Esau returns home to prepare his father's favorite meal, in preparation for the blessing, he realized that his brother has already been blessed. When Esau realized that the blessing has already gone to his brother Jacob, he is so upset. I mean, really upset. I mean, Cain and Abel upset like somebody's about to die. Once again, Rebecca gets an A+ in ear hustling because she overhears a conversation and tells Jacob that Esau's going to kill him. Rebecca had instructed Jacob to flee to his uncle's house, Laban. When he reaches Laban's house, he falls in love with Rachel. He tells Laban that he will work for 7 years to be able to marry Rachel. After 7 years, Laban arranges the marriage of Jacob and Rachel. During the wedding night, Laban switches Rachel for Leah. Realizing after 7 long years, he consummated his marriage with the wrong woman, he approaches Laban. Laban says that based on tradition, it is not right for the youngest to be married before the oldest. So Laban said, if you work for me for another 7 years, you can have both my daughters. I don't know about you, but I know that was a long 7 years. He thought 7 years he would get his wife. He had to work 14 years to get both, one he didn't even want. Ooh. Unfortunately, after these 14 years, Rachel is barren. However, Leah is able to have children, and so she bears 4 sons for Jacob. Eventually, God shows mercy on Rachel and allows her to have a son named Joseph. So after working for 14 years, Jacob has had enough and he is ready to go. He approaches Laban and says, look, I've worked for you for 14 years. I need my severance package. Any animal that is spotted or speckled, I will take. God answers Jacob's prayer and he's able to turn all of the strong livestock into spotted or speckled animals. Of course, Laban's sons are not going to idly stand by while they feel as though their dad is being robbed. Jacob can sense his life is in danger, so he begins to plan a great escape. Soon thereafter, he takes all of his livestock, his wives, and he leaves. Eventually, Laban does realize that he's gone, and he goes to pursue him. Laban eventually catches up with Jacob. However, there is peace among them. So that brings us all the way up to chapter 31. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Next week, we're going to delve further, beginning with chapter 32. If you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I mean, all the women in the world, and you want my wife? Come on, man. Eventually, God shows mercy. During the wedding night, Laban switches Rachel for his other daughter, Lisa. So around this time, God reappears to God. So God... Testing. Testing. Yeah. Oh yeah. Do a little test for you, boy. Little test for you, boy.